Hey everybody, welcome back to Kunes Car Convos. My name's Cassie from the Kunes Marketing Department, and this is episode 4 of our First Time Car Buyer series where we handle everything finance. Today we're going to be driving around this 2021 Ford Raptor with David Horowitz, who is the finance manager here at Kunes Elkhorn Chevy GMC. Why don't you kind of introduce yourself, how you started at Kunes and how you got to where you are now?
Absolutely. My name is David Horowitz, and I'm a finance manager at Kunes Chevy GMC in beautiful Elkhorn. I started with the company in 2016 at the Ford store, hence, again, that's why I picked the Ford Raptor here. And in 2021, I moved over to Elkhorn to start doing finance, and I've been there since. So
you got a couple years of finance under your belt and helping people with all kinds of situations.
Absolutely, yeah. So we do actually have like a separate department for more troubling cases. If you have like more credit challenges, we do have a separate department for that. Lizzie Vasquez is just amazing. She does a great job. I've seen her get stuff done that shouldn't be gotten done, and people are crying and super happy because they've got a car and they need a car, right? But yeah, I mean, we'll do anything we can, everything we can to help somebody out, get them into a car, no matter the credit situation.
So I come in to Elkhorn Chevy GMC and I pick out a car that I really love, whether it's the Ford Raptor or a Chevy Equinox, whatever. Walk me through kind of the process in the finance department. Like, what do I do? First of all, I didn't even know that there was a separate room. I was like, ooh, I'm being escorted into a room. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of people, if they have purchased a vehicle before, they like see it as a storm cloud, like, oh, here comes the guy where we do all the final scary paperwork stuff. I personally always come out and I say, hey, here's the fun part where we get to do all the fun paperwork. But it really, when you go in, you get the vehicle, you're working with a salesperson most of the time, and when you get to the point of kind of agreeing to numbers, I'll be handed a folder that has all your information on it. I look through your credit bureau, look through everything, and decide which banks are going to make the most sense. So for instance, if you're a first-time buyer, there's a couple credit unions out there that they specialize in that, right? So it's going to be better odds of better approval once you got one, and all that. So we kind of just like analyze the credit situation, look at the car. There's a lot of variables, but you look at everything, send it over to the places that make the most sense, and try to garner the best rate.
How long does like the finance section usually take? Like, is it like a same day thing? Is it like a week, or does it kind of depend on when you go in, if the banks are open, kind of situation?
So that can be a factor. Every bank's a little bit different as far as their hours are concerned and all that goes. But really, we can knock pretty much anything out. Just want to be a safe driver here. We can knock anything out in a day, or less than a day. It just kind of depends on how fast the process is on the customer's part, the salesperson's part, and all that. But I mean, it's a pretty quick process. I mean, be prepared to take some time. Some people come in, they're like, oh, I'm gonna go buy a car. It's gonna take me 30 minutes. Like, that's not the case. But we do everything we can to try to make it expeditious and whatnot.
I have gone with my parents a couple of times in their car buying journey. Have I been paying attention? No, because I was like, this is miles away from me. I don't need to worry about this right now, and now I'm kind of sitting here. And this series has been really helpful in like teaching me, kind of filling in the gaps, because I've obviously had these talks with my parents. I've known I needed a car for like the past year or so, because my sisters becoming 16, need to give her my car, so I need to get a car of my own. And so I've been having these conversations, but it's nice to kind of have almost like a different perspective and almost like an insider perspective of, you know, what I can expect. And just everyone's car buying process is different. I've learned that with all the people I've talked to. And so, yeah, it's good to get both your professional and your personal opinion on these types of situations.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the more you can do that, and that's just in any facet, right? Like the more that you can experience and learn from different people, different scenarios, like the more you benefit, right?
Yeah.
Like the more knowledge you have to go towards that. And one thing I did want to mention, just like as far as, you know, as a first-time buyer or going into it, like not really knowing what to expect,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ask questions,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and don't blindly jump into something. Just make sure you're doing your due diligence to check everything and look through it, and you know, you'd be totally fine. It's not as scary as some people would make it out to be, but
Yeah.
it all comes down to, you know, reading through it, just making sure you're doing everything you should do.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, obviously I work for a dealership, so I've learned that the finance department as a whole has so many, not big words, but almost like words that the common person wouldn't understand, like gap and...
Like, hey,
that.
we're going to put this gap on your APR and make sure we double up on the double down with the... Yeah,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
So what are kind of like the insider terms? Like I don't know what the proper word is for it is, but what are kind of like the key terms in finance that maybe a person who's coming in new wouldn't exactly know, and they might be scared to ask the person so they don't sound dumb? Because I know I would be scared to ask those questions. I'd be like, what is this? Like,
Sure. So one, you should never feel dumb or whatever. Like there's no stupid question, especially when it's your first time, you know.
mm-hmm.
You mentioned gap. Gap's a pretty important one when financing.
Mhm.
So if you were paying cash, you wouldn't need gap.
Mm-hmm.
But what it stands for is guaranteed asset protection. So in the event of total loss, God forbid, right, you
Mhm.
get in an accident, your insurance says, hey, it's totaled out. You know, there's no saving this thing. I should probably keep my hands on the wheel. But it's totaled out. We think it's worth, and unfortunately, a lot of times you're going to see insurance not give you as much as you'd like or as much as you maybe should get for it.
Mm-hmm.
But as an example, they'll say, hey, it's worth $10,000. Now, if you have a loan on your vehicle and your loans say at $20,000 still, you're on the line without having gap protection or gap insurance. You're on the line for covering that difference,
Mm-hmm.
right? So gap steps in, takes care of that difference up to 150%. Depends, but for us, it's 150% of market value of the vehicle and up to $1,000 of your insurance deductible. So for you, as the person who just went through it, a terrible accident potentially and whatever, you don't have to worry about paying for a car that you no longer own.
Yeah.
Right, so that's pretty important. APR, annual percentage rate, right? It's what your rate is. So, I mean, again, if you just do a little bit of research, do a little bit of looking around prior to going in, that always helps. So you know some of those terms,
Mm-hmm.
but never be afraid to ask, right?
Yeah. So when you go into the finance department, there are always, you know, people have this connotation of it being a shakedown of adding things they'll add things on. So what are some things that can add on? Because I know throughout all this, people have, everyone I've interviewed, they'll be like, get a service plan. When you go to the finance, they'll offer you service plans. What are the different kind of service plans, at least Kunes offers? And, you know, are they, I mean, obviously they are worth it because, like you said, just like with Gap as well, it's worth it because God forbid something happen, you're covered. But what are kind of the different service plans a person can get with a car?
So there's several different ones, and like several different, I guess, tiers or levels to it within each one. Probably the biggest one, like you mentioned, service contract. So a vehicle service contract is like an extended warranty. They kind of have shied away from using the word extended warranty, but it's just a vehicle service contract. So if anything happens to the vehicle, you're going to be covered. It gives you that peace of mind, because at the end of the day, a vehicle's a machine, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not if something's going to go wrong, it's when
something goes wrong. Exactly.
So it gives you that peace of mind. My personal favorite coverage that we offer is the exclusionary coverage. We offer a $0 or a $100 disappearing deductible. So if you bring it to any Kunes location, which now we've got the Kunes Empire, or whatever, 42.
Kunes Kingdom.
Yeah, the Kunes Kingdom. So it's $0 at any Kunes location for that deductible, $100 anywhere else nationwide. And exclusionary, best way to put it is it excludes anything that's not covered under the manufacturer's bumper to bumper. So, when you're buying a car brand new, 3-year, 36,000 bumper to bumper, pretty much covers everything on the vehicle except for wearable items.
Yeah.
So that's what this exclusionary coverage does. So it's giving the customer the most protection, and again, peace of mind. You never have to worry about anything.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned APR, and so my mom's a banker, so I kind of know what some of this is, but not necessarily.
Yeah,
in the
awesome platypus return.
Yeah, Perry the platypus, put on the fedora and
exactly
rock away. So, what is the best way to get the best interest rates as a first-time car buyer? Because a lot of first-time car buyers, they'll have no credit. They'll be like me, where you went to school and you have credit card debt and school and student loan debt and all of that, and your credit score definitely does take a hit. And a lot of first-time car buyers are either in college or freshly out of college. So what is kind of the best way to get the best interest rate for your credit score?
So, one, having student loan debt, credit card debt, as long as you're paying on it, you're not just letting it, go.
Build up.
Right. It's not terribly a bad thing, because that's actually history. So every bank's, again, is different. Every bank's going to look at things a little bit differently. But having some type of history that you've been paying on something is not a bad thing at all. So it gives you some type of history. The best way to get the best rate, it kind of depends on the call that you're gonna get back from the bank. So again, I'm gonna jump back to just doing a little bit of research ahead of time. If maybe you've never had an auto loan before, but you can always call your bank, check with your bank. Hey, what are your rates looking like?
Yeah.
I will be honest, most of the time we can beat what their rates are, just because we've got good relationships with our lenders. We send them tons of business, so a lot of times it's easier that way to just do it at the car dealership.
Yeah.
It's also for the sake of saving time. You don't have to bounce between different banks, come back with a check, and then do whatever. So, really, do a little bit of research, see where rates kind of currently are sitting. Just simple Google search. And then when you're sitting down to go over the financing, you'll have a better idea of what you could or should be getting, and and talk with the finance manager about that too. Be like, hey, I was seeing this, and they'll I know we are happy to explain everything that we do, oh, well, this is because of that, and this is where the rates are looking. But yeah, it's kind of totally up to the banks at that point. It's kind of in the bank's hands. I will say, if you get a rate that's maybe not as favorable as you'd like, Kunes offers refinancing, so we've got some lenders that'll do refinancing for you. So if you're a first-time buyer, you get a rate that's maybe a little bit higher because there's not a lot of credit history, you can always refinance it in about a year. So, grit your teeth for a little bit, pay on it, and then you can go ahead and get a better rate.
So, is there anything that I should bring with me for when I go to the finance department? Should I bring any sort of bills with me? Obviously, I need to bring an ID to prove I am who I say I am, but
Absolutely.
I know with some loans you have to bring like your ID and either like your social security card or birth certificate or anything like that. Is there anything that I need to bring with me so like I don't have to turn around and drive back
Drive
home?
an hour and a half back home just to come back?
Yeah.
Yes. So birth certificate, that's kind of a more rare one. I don't think I've actually ever seen that as a stipulation from the bank. But what
Yeah.
you're talking about are steps or stipulations that the bank has in order to do the deal, right?
Mhm.
So especially with first-time buyer or lack of credit history, they're gonna want to see some type of something, because they're like, why is this person why would we give this money to this person for this vehicle, right?
Yeah.
So big one, proof of income.
Mhm.
So a lot of times it's just your last 2 pay stubs. Driver's license, of course, you're gonna want to bring that.
Yeah.
Proof of insurance just shows that you've got Wisconsin insurance, or wherever you are, auto insurance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are like the 3 big ones. And then sometimes, if your driver's license doesn't match your current address, they're going to want to see proof of residence. So,
Mhm.
like a utility bill, water bill, cell phone bills even usually work. But it kind of just depends. The things you probably want to have with you, because a lot of stuff you can pull up on your phone or pull
Yeah.
up on a computer. What you definitely want to just have with you is your insurance, driver's license, and if you had been talking with someone prior to coming in and they're like, hey, look, looks like you should bring your proof of income, then bring that.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff we can print out right there at the dealership.
Mhm.
It happens all the time. The bank gets back to us and they're like, hey, everything looks good, but we do want to see, maybe it's a new job,
Yeah.
right? So we want to see that they've actually been there for this amount of time,
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. So in that case, we just print out whatever we need right there.
Yeah. So, like you said in the beginning, you've been at this for a while. Are there any common pitfalls or mistakes that you see first-time car buyers make? And I know on finance side, any side that you see make, or maybe something that makes it a little harder for them to buy a car.
Probably biggest mistake would be just purchasing a vehicle that you don't like. Like, we're driving in a 2021 Ford Raptor right now. Like, this isn't probably your ideal
Yeah.
first time buyer
It's a
car.
nice car.
Oh, it's awesome. Truck. It's a truck.
It's a truck, sorry. Beep, beep.
Yeah.
Not a sedan, not an SUV.
She didn't mean it. But yeah, like, stay within your means, right?
Mhm.
Like, make sure you're purchasing something at a payment that you can afford,
Mhm.
where you're not going to be like struggling because of the payment. And for the most part, the banks aren't going to allow for that anyways,
Yeah.
right? So like, if you couldn't afford it, they wouldn't
Give it to you.
give you the loan. But still, fact remains, people can be kind of, if you're younger, you're not really, you don't have like an Excel spreadsheet with all your, I don't even have that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But
Who uses Excel anymore? I'm all Google Sheets.
that's right. But probably just like going out of their comfort zone, and
Mhm.
to the point of just like having too high of a payment.
Yeah.
And it's too much vehicle, right? Like, so that's probably the biggest thing. Other than that, it's pitfalls. I don't think there's many.
Yeah. Is there kind of like a rule of thumb when it comes to either determining like what car payment you can afford based off of like your income? Because I know for like rent, they always say you should rent should only take about like 30% of your budget or whatever. Is there kind of any rule of thumb that way, or in the fact of like calculating? So I know Kunes will show the monthly payment on our website, on any other websites, but let's say you find a car and you can't find the monthly payment anywhere. Is there kind of a way to calculate that, or?
It's tough because there's always so many variables involved with
Mhm.
like, and everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
So everyone, much and set aside however much they want to go towards a
Yeah.
car, depending on the importance. You know, I know people who'd prefer to live in a small house but have like
A nice car.
a bunch of nice cars, because
Yeah.
that's just what they do. They're in their car all the time. So that's kind of hard to answer, just because it kind of comes down to everyone's personal preference. But I mean, yeah, you don't want to go over a certain percentage. Like,
You want to make sure you can still put food on the table.
exactly.
Pay
like,
for the gas for the car. Pay for the insurance for the car.
yeah, you've heard of house broke. You don't like house broke. You got this nice house, but now you're paying too much on your mortgage or your rent or whatever. It's like the same thing. If you're within your means, just be comfortable with that.
Yeah. As we're kind of wrapping up, one last quick question. What is something you wish you knew when you were buying your first car? It could be finance, or it could be anything as a whole. Like, what is something you wish you knew? Like, if you could like look at a picture of yourself, go back in time, what would you like shake the person that you were, be like, do this?
Oh man, that's a really good question. So, my first car was a $600 Ford Escort that I bought from one of my football coaches, and it had no muffler, no odometer, no.
It got you from point A to point B, but it didn't really do pretty much anything else.
I loved that thing, and I always will. But yeah, it was an A to B car, definitely.
Yeah.
Sometimes A to B, like sometimes it would just die. But
it would get to like 8.5.
Yeah, right, 8.5. So, you know what? Like, as a first-time buyer, you know, don't be scared of the process and getting a payment, whatever. Like, it ends up working out. Helps build your credit. It really does. But as long as you're buying within your means, right? Like, if you don't need a 21 Ford Raptor.
I don't need to get a 2024 Ford Mustang Mach-E.
Right, exactly. Like, they're awesome cars. Maybe at some point, you know, to put it on your list.
Yeah.
But, you know, stay within your means so that you're comfortable, and, you know, that's probably it. Also, so that you're not just getting to 8.5. Service contract's always great. You know, it's and just read through stuff, make sure you're checking all your boxes, and but yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't change anything about how I did it. I loved my $600 car.
Well, thank you so much. I'm kind of car shopping as we're driving by. I saw a Tesla back there, which again, probably not the best for a first-time car buyer, but
really good fuel economy.
I know it's. I want to own
Chevy Bolt.
I want to own a Tesla at one point in my life.
And you will.
And I will.
Hard work and dedication.
So thank you so much for letting me pick your brain.
It was my pleasure. If there's anything I missed, let me know. We'll hook a camera up into another car.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I might
Maybe
just do that. I might just do that just so we can go drive around another car.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
All right, peace. You can cut that part.
Oh no, you're not cutting that part. You're keeping that part in.